Church planting is a lot like jumping out of an airplane. This training series is designed to equip your entire team as they hurl themselves out of the airplane and hit the drop zone that God intended. And it's a way to help them as they're doing probably the riskiest thing in their life, how to keep the team on the same page and take no man's land effectively.
All the forces gathered in the 20-year thinking
Question to peace and neutrality, and with the desirability of domestic harmony in the face of the foreign situation.
The one thing that you want to know when you're thousands of feet up in the air, and you're getting ready to jump through that hatch, is a guy looking at you, giving you the thumbs up. The instructor has jumped before and lived to tell the tale. And that makes you feel pretty safe that you're going to survive when you jump and finally take that leap of faith. This video series is designed to help you free fall into the hands of God. One thing we cannot supply to you is the Holy Spirit. And that's the equivalent of the wind that catches your parachute. But we can help you pack the parachute. We can help you go through the safety checks. And we can help give you the thumbs up so you feel more confident about jumping. That you jump safely, you jump informed, and you jump with the right motives. Why church plant? That's an important question. It's better to ask that question now before you've jumped out of the hatch than to wait until you're hurling and free falling towards the earth. The idea that any church planter needs to wrestle with is, why am I church planting? There are plenty of reasons of why you need to church plant, but why am I church planting? Why did I sign up to this outfit? Why am I ready to take this leap of faith? Let's face it, there's been enough church planters that have planted churches with the motive of becoming the next big thing. The fact is that church planting should only be done with the motive to reach the lost. When the Apostle Paul signed up to become a church planter, he went from a life of obscurity to a life of hardship. Things did not get better for him. Probably if you sign up to this and you're ready to do this, the spiritual attack that you're going to have is going to go off the charts. And if you don't ask the question now, why am I doing this? You are certainly going to ask the question later. It's important to understand now that if you're doing this, it is for the love of Jesus and simply to reach the lost. So far, that's all I've understood as far as an acceptable reason. Charles Spurgeon said, if you want to go into ministry, there are only two things you need: a love for Christ and a love for the lost. A couple hundred years later, I don't think we can come up with anything better than that. If your motive is to be big and to be popular, then you're not going to make the cut. You're just simply not even going to get past boot camp. The hardship's going to be so great that you're going to peter out, you're going to quit, you're going to go home. If you want people to shout your name and give you goodies, then you might as well just walk out of the building now. But the reality is that if you want to partner with the Holy Spirit and His passion to lift up the Son and to reach the lost, then you come to the right place. In the New Testament, Jesus told the apostles to start in Jerusalem, go to Judea, spread out to Samaria, and eventually to the ends of the earth. That's the part we're in now, and church planting plays a vital role in reaching out to the ends of the earth and picking up lost people, transforming them into missionaries that reach lost people, disciple-making disciples. At the Tower of Babel, God had given the command. It was very clear. I want you to spread out. I want you to repopulate the earth. But instead, in disobedience, they ended up building upwards. And they built the Tower of Babel, and God had to scatter it. The book of Acts wasn't much different. Again, Jesus had given the imperative. I want you to spread out. You'll be my witnesses to the very ends of the earth. But instead, they all huddled in Jerusalem. Enter the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul, before he's even born again, before he's even converted, ends up smacking a hammer down on the church that sends it scattering out into the far corners of Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Paul knew that God had used him before he was saved to spread the church. And once he was converted and God gave him that call, he knew that was his divine mission. If the modern church continues to operate like the Tower of Babel and seeks to only build upwards instead of spreading outwards, then it's no wonder that we're not advancing, that we seem more rather to be on the retreat rather than advancing the kingdom of Jesus. In the Old Testament, when God told him, don't build upwards, it was the same mandate in the New Testament. And Jesus has a way of scattering us. In fact, the church's current condition is forcing us to spread out in order to reach the lost, because they're not coming in anymore. As we continue to gather in more money, buy more building spaces, it doesn't seem to make the slightest bit of difference. In America, 14 out of the 15 churches that grew in the last decade did so merely by transfer growth. That means Christians left one church simply to go to another, presumably larger church. That means that we've only been shuffling Christians around. Many people don't realize that America actually contains the 4th largest unreached population on the planet, coming behind India, China, and Malaysia. In the 1960s in the United Kingdom, the youth were lost to the church. At first, nobody panicked and no one worried. Nobody was alarmed. The reason for that is that the numbers were still swelled and the churches were still full. But over the next few decades, the churches began to shrink merely by attrition. In other words, the older silver-haired believers began to die one by one, and as that happened, the church shrank by proxy. In America, we're not too far behind this, probably 50, 60 years. If you look left and you look right on a Sunday morning, you'll notice that the average attending age of a churchgoer in America is 50 and above. We've already lost the youth. We've lost the generation of tomorrow. But so far, nobody's worried. No one's panicking, because right now in America, the mega church is still big. But mark my words, it is in decline, and it's only a matter of time. The great statistic that I want to point to and leave you with is that church plants are 85% more likely to reach the lost than an established church. In other words, church planting is God's means by rapidly deploying His people to take the gospel to the ends of the earth. Why church plant? That's why.